Hi, welcome to Lore of the Ring, where I explain terrible wrestling lore to my co-host. I'm Dan,
I'm Daphne.
and today I'm going to set the metric on how weird wrestling can be. But before,
Finally.
but before we get into that, Daph, why don't you tell the audience what your current perception of wrestling as a whole is?
Well, we previously compared it to anime tournament arcs, as in the context of like how it introduces multiple characters at once, the ways that it sets up different storylines at different times, and the ways that characters are pit against one another. I guess my current perception, I'm learning a lot about there's so much more performance involved than I thought. Just I didn't make the connection that so many of this relied on these characters and the arcs that they had. Because I mean, I know that there are wrestlers like Kane and the Undertaker. I know that there have been characters who've had themes and stuff, but I didn't realize, one, how many of them were, and two, even if you don't have a theme, you're gonna have a character like which of the Hardy Boys did you tell me about last time?
Matt.
Was it Chris Hardy? Matt Hardy? Thank you, Matt Hardy. Like Matt Hardy, who had an actual bad thing from real life turned into a plot element for him for a while. So I guess I'm kind of reframing. I didn't realize how much of this was, I don't think pageantry is the right word, but like the show, as opposed to just that being a much looser framing device for the actual matches, like I assumed. I'm still kind of reframing my understanding of wrestling at this point, and it's much more about the spectacle than I thought.
Yeah. So, with both of these storylines I'm going to do, both of them require a lot of like background of who these people are to really understand how kind of weird some of these are getting.
Okay.
So first I'm just going to introduce with our first storyline we're going to cover. This is one from WWE in the 90s. So I'm going to just cover the two main people involved in this. If you have any questions, just feel free to interject. So
Gotcha. Okay.
So the first person I need to introduce is Mae Young, and she is a wrestler who has maybe one of the longest active careers in all of wrestling. She started when she was 18 in 1939. And that's when she says she had her first match. That's when WWE said that she had her first match. There's some dispute whether she actually started in the 40s, but most things say 39.
Jeez.
But she kept making on-screen appearances until the year of her death in 2013. And she really is pretty influential to women's wrestling, because like back then it was like there were women wrestlers, but it was still predominantly men. Even misogynistic wrestlers, and I have a quote that I'm going to read from one of them, like respected her a lot. Wrestler who's in the WWE Hall of Fame, Ed Strangler Lewis, once told her to her face, "I don't like girl wrestlers. Women should be in the kitchen, but after seeing you, you were born to be a wrestler."
God.
So
that's such a...
Yeah.
That's like the 90s movie misogynist man compliment of like, you're not so bad for a girl. Like, wow.
It literally is that. So her final match was November 15th, 2010, where she became the first person to wrestle over the age of 80 and the first person to wrestle in 9 different decades.
Jeez.
She also won that match, so...
Good, I would hope so.
The next person I want to talk about is Mark Henry. He is often billed as the world's strongest man. A lot of wrestlers have held that title. In his case, it might be true. He competed at both the 1992 and 1996 Summer Olympics in weightlifting and served as the honorary team captain in 1996. Henry remains the youngest man in history to squat more than 900 pounds without a squat suit, as well as the youngest person to total more than 2,300 pounds raw. And he did that when he was under the age of 25. He retired from weightlifting at the 1996 Olympic Games, vowing not to return until it was cleaned up of anabolic steroid use. So he's never used steroids. He's just like this. He has competed in a few competitions since then, like the USAPL National Powerlifting Championships in '97, where he came in first, and also coming in first in the 2002 Arnold Strongman competition. A lot of people in the weightlifting circles don't think we actually saw how strong he could get because he retired at 25, 26. But just further to drive that home, here is him crushing an apple with his bare hands.
Oh, geez. Okay. Yeah, no, that... Oh, geez. In the car, too. That's, it's not sanitary, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Jeez, okay. So, strongest wrestler in the world and oldest female wrestler ever?
Yes. So there are two
Okay.
main people involved in this. So after he returned from the Olympics, Vince McMahon, with his love of large men, signed him to a 10-year contract. Debuted 1996 at a pay-per-view, which is a big thing to make your first match on a pay-per-view. He defeated legendary wrestler Jerry the King Lawler. He was favorably booked. He didn't lose a lot, but they had trouble getting him over with the audience, which is the biggest thing to do, even if he is like visually impressive. So they sent him back down to developmental for like a couple months and then brought him back up. And he became a regular fixture on TV. Then in 1998, I guess I'm also introducing the concept of the faction, which is just the group of wrestlers acting as a team that's used as a means to get a lot of wrestlers over very quickly. So they put him in the team of the Nation of Domination, which the Nation, they were based off of the Black Panther Party. I haven't watched the storyline with them for a while, but being that this was the 90s, I can't imagine it's aged better than Milk.
How many of those wrestlers were black?
So, all of them.
Yeah.
The Nation...
Oh, okay.
The Nation was very successful in getting certain stars over. One you might remember as Rocky Maivia, who you would know as The Rock. That's how they got him over with the audience.
Okay.
I did rewatch a promo from them recently, where it's their leader Farouk has a promo against Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Austin has to clarify mid-promo, this ain't a race thing, it's a me kicking your ass thing.
I think I've heard that quote before. Okay, I know some of these names. I know Farouk from wrestling video games.
Yeah.
And I think I vaguely know the concept of factions because, was there a faction that was called New World Order? Was there NWO? Was that a thing?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah, so Nation worked for a lot of people they were trying to get over as what's called a baby face, especially, which is just when you're just clean, squeaky clean good, which is what they were trying to do with The Rock at first when he was Rocky Maivia. They're really trying to make him like a Hulk Hogan, eat your prayers, say your vitamins type. But no one liked that, so they made him kind of like heelish. They let him mouth off on the mic more when he was with the Nation. That's what they did with Mark too, and that's got him over more.
Okay.
So by the time the Nation was over, I want you to guess where Mark went next with his gimmick.
Where did he go next? Okay. The last time I guessed where someone went next with their gimmick, it was what happened in the corporate ministry. So I'm over one on my guesses now. Where do you take this next? I guess since I brought it up, did he join? He wasn't in there late enough to join the ministry, was he? Surely.
No.
Okay.
So he almost took the exact same path Vishera did, where he adopted a gimmick called Sexual Chocolate, where he was a ladies' man / sex addict.
Why? Why did they do this twice?
I don't know. I don't know how this happened twice.
Oh my god, okay.
So part of me wonders if like the idea of this character was like wholesale taken from Coming to America, because when you search Sexual Chocolate, you either get that scene from Coming to America or Mark Henry. But that had come out 10 years previous, so it's like, why would they do that? But then I remembered, one of my favorite Vince McMahon stories, that he didn't know what a burrito was until the year 2003. So,
oh, dear God.
So this tracks. So this progresses to the point, so Mark is like romancing different ladies every week, and eventually he ends up in an on-screen relationship with Mae Young, who is at this point 77 years old.
Okay.
So they go like the full 9 with the backstage segments. They show them together on dates, sometimes in a hotel bedroom in the same bed and turning off the lights.
Gosh, okay.
So like lowbrow absurdist bit, like Olympian Mark Henry is in a committed relationship with an 80-year-old. Who'd have seen that? So like, you know, it's like,
yeah, it's funny because she's old. That level of thought went into this. Okay.
So eventually one night on TV, the character The Godfather, who, well, he was a pimp. His character's a pimp. He self-identifies himself as a pimp to other people. Probably has aged badly. Probably better than his previous gimmick where he was Papa Shango, who was an evil witch doctor.
Okay, I've heard that name too.
So he's in the ring with the team of Too Cool, which was the wrestlers, Scotty Too Hottie and late Grandmaster Sexay, with just a bunch of women dancing with them. So Mark and May come out, and May announces on the microphone that she's pregnant. Audible gasps.
Okay.
So I don't think they told Scotty and Grandmaster Sexay about this bit because they look genuinely bewildered. Like, everyone else's reactions are, like, kind of like the fake reaction, but, like, they cut back to Scotty later, and he's, like, actively trying not to laugh.
Okay.
So, next week, there's a bit where Mark is trying to convince May not to go after the women's championship by giving her a bunch of baby gifts. It ends with a fart joke.
Of course it does. Okay.
So then the week after that, Mark has a match with fellow Olympian Kurt Angle, during which Mark starts losing, and then May runs out to the ring to defend his honor. She punches Angle, getting Mark disqualified, and then Angle picks her up and slams her down.
Jeez, okay.
So, when I was researching this, I found Angle talking about this on his podcast, and he said that before the match, May came up to him and said, "Mr. Angle, I want to tell you what I want you to do to me tonight. I want you to spike my ass as hard as you can into that mat. I want you to angle slam me as hard as you possibly can."
Holy shit, okay. I like her. I like May so far.
May is great.
Yeah.
Then there's a scripted bit where the EMTs take her backstage, and like the fake doctors, Mark and her friend Moolah, who's another old wrestler, are all checking on her to make sure she's okay. And Mark's like panically talking to her, even though like we think she's passed out. And he says the phrase, "It's gonna be okay, May. Just sit on your back." But then after that, upon Mark saying those words, May sits up like the Undertaker and says the words, "Mark, you know I don't like it on my back. I like it on top." After a brief comedic pause, she shouts, "Plus I know everyone here wants to see my puppies," which is what the commentator Jerry Lawler would call boobs. And then, like, the total of 4 people attempt to stop May from taking her shirt off, but she's too fast.
Jesus.
And before you know it, she's not wearing a shirt or a bra, and then they just hard, like, zoom into, like, the third EMT, who's just, like, horrified. So then we cut to the commentators, who try to transition to the next segment, but Lawler delivers a line that will haunt me forever. "Is she gonna breastfeed with those? The baby is going to get evaporated milk."
That's charming. This didn't go any of the directions I was expecting it to go.
It gets worse.
Cool, good, bring it on.
So after this, in-canon cousins Hardcore and Crash Holly make some derogatory comments about Mark and May's love child. May then goes to play poker with the APA, who are like these wrestling mercenaries, essentially. You will remember them from chat with their shirt that says "Always Pounding Ass."
Oh, you did. That did get posted the other day. Okay.
So she smokes a cigar with them, drinks all their beer, and wins all their money in a poker game, and then says they can have all their money back as long as they attack Hardcore and Crash Holly during their match against Mark later. This leads to a 6-man tag match the next week with Mark and the APA against Viscera and the Hollies. Mark and the APA win, and May comes running out after the match and starts kicking Crash Holly, and then gets accosted by Hardcore and Viscera, who beat her up, and Viscera performs a big splash on her, which is like when a bigger wrestler just does a running belly flop on someone.
God, okay.
EMTs show up again, no nudity this week.
The ratings from last week were still good enough. We didn't need more nudity yet. Okay. Okay.
So this continues for a month between the Hollies and Mark and May. It ends when they knock down Crash Holly, and May performs a big splash of her own on him, but that causes her to go into labor.
I wondered when that was going to happen. Okay.
So she's been pregnant a total of 2 months at this point. So this becomes a running thing like throughout the whole show. They spend the whole show cutting back to this segment. They have her like smoking a cigar while she's giving labor. They're like trying to take the cigar out of her mouth. The EMT who's attending to her asks her when the last time she had her period was. She responds 1957. More fart jokes as she pushes. The EMT is eventually given a wrench to pull the baby out and has to be assisted in pulling the baby out by Mark, leading May to give birth to a bloody jelly-covered rubber hand.
Oh, wait. This is the hand thing?
Yes.
Wait, why? That wasn't from like a Halloween thing or like a scary monsters. Like that was literally just normal ass human people up until this point.
Yes.
Did they explain it?
So there's visible confusion on everyone's faces. Everyone of the other people in the room, someone says, "Let's give May a hand," and everyone but the EMT and Mark start clapping. End segment. What do you think the joke was that they were building to?
I have no idea what what this. What? When you say end segment, was this the end of the story? Did nothing else happen?
Yeah, we just cut back to the main event after that.
Oh, and it's over, of course.
They didn't address this the next week either.
Did they ever come back to this? This was everything? This is all?
They did, but we'll get to that part.
Okay. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. Man.
So to this day, Mark's not even sure what the joke is. So in an interview, he stated, "I still pick on Vince every time I see him. Are you ever going to tell me what the deal with the hand was?" And he just starts laughing. "It's a hand! Welcome to the world of professional wrestling." Everything don't make sense, but it's entertaining as hell. I don't know what the plan was. I just go with the flow. I don't think why. I'm just curious of all things why a hand. And Vince, he just bust out laughing every time I ask him. It's the biggest ongoing joke, and I think that's what it was. He did it just to entertain himself.
He has to have. God, he's this man's a cartoon character. Man, what the hell?
So while the hand isn't addressed, Mark and May's relationship continues a few months, where May gets repeatedly targeted by the Dudley boys, where the brother Bubba Ray Dudley repeatedly power bombs her through a table several weeks in a row.
Jeez.
Like, it just keeps happening. First week, it's because she, like, interferes. I think she slaps Bubba. But then the second week, Bubba goes backstage to get her in a wheelchair to throw her off the stage through another table.
God. Okay.
Okay, so fast forward to April of 2012. We get a brief family reunion of Mark, May, and the Hand, who is all grown up and is now portrayed in an adult man by an adult man in a giant hand costume.
Okay. For a minute, I thought it was just going to be a grown man sprouted from the hand and it just became a full person. But no, now he's a giant hand.
It's a giant hand. He's got a little, like, face hole for his face.
Okay, that makes sense. It doesn't.
So, then fast forward to December 31st, 2012. She's pregnant again.
Okay.
Again, same setup, but this time, half the whole roster is there. And they're watching, and again, it's split up throughout the show. Again, there's a fart joke. The only one who's disgusted is Daniel Bryan, who's screaming no, and his tag team partner, Kane, is screaming yes back at him.
Okay.
I don't know why Kane's excited about this. She eventually gives birth, but instead of the hand, it's the leprechaun Hornswoggle, but he's dressed as Baby New Year.
Wait. Okay. I feel like I want to unpack the Hornswoggle thing first, or the Baby New Year thing, but somehow those don't feel pertinent. Like, why? Okay, so he was already an established character. Like, people knew him already, yes?
Yes, people knew who Hornswoggle was.
Okay, so everyone knows this is him dressed as a different character, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Okay. So, God, okay.
He also has a full beard at this point, too.
I would expect no less. That's actually what I was visualizing, so that works out. Huh. Okay. So, I don't know where to start with this. Did he, like, wrestle as a baby for a while then, or?
No, we didn't go back to this.
We just never go, Vince! We never go back to this. I feel like Vince McMahon owes me an apology that I'm not going to get.
Vince is there at every show. This is all his fault.
This man owes me an apology.
So,
okay.
It's a lot of this going over the story feels like I'm taking a lot away from May, but May, honestly, one of the best performers that wrestling has ever had. Like, I'd compare her to, like, she'd be like the Betty White of wrestling, just been there the whole time, actively working, trying to improve it. At her Hall of Fame induction in 2008, she said, "And I'm so thrilled to be here tonight with you fans. It's you fans that make me bound and determined to be here on my 100th birthday."
No.
So she passed away at 90, and it would have been great to see what another 10 years of May could have done.
Oh my God, it would have. How did she pass away?
Just old.
Okay, that's fair. I feel like that's the most appropriate somehow.
Yeah. And also, I don't want to take anything away from Mark either. Genuinely both amazing in weightlifting, and his Hall of Pain gimmick in 2011. Genuinely one of the best. He is very good. It's just very weird they were all involved in this.
Yeah, they sound like two, like, really interesting people to just, like, follow the athletic careers of, and then all of a sudden, Vince McMahon presumably just storms in like, "Hey, I've got a great idea, guys." So I assumed they weren't told what was going to happen in advance, right? Like, they find out week to week what plot's going to be, or?
Essentially, like, unless they're pitching, they don't know what the whole plan is.
Okay, so you can pitch, like, I want to do this plot line if you want to.
Yeah, so
okay.
What the wrestler Chris Jericho, who was there with Mark when he broke the apple, has said on his podcast, when you go in to see Vince, there's about like 4 different Vince McMahons you can see, and certain ones you can't pitch to. So...
That doesn't surprise me. I wish it surprised me.
And some of them, they just like he shuts down a bunch of good ones a lot. Like, you'll hear stories of things that were pitched, and then he'll be like, no, it's frustrating. I think even John Cena's clearly frustrated with it, because every time they try to interview him about like, oh, were there any storylines you wanted to do but didn't get to do, he just like changes the subject and being like, you control what you can control. So,
gosh. Which
to me reads as, there are some things he really wished he could have done.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, does he still actively wrestle? Because I know that he's started to break into movies and stuff.
So he comes back every once in a while. He hasn't been there a while. There's definitely a match. His most recent match, I do want to talk about at some point, but I need to set a lot of the groundwork for wrestling in general, because the match I'm thinking of, I could call it the Evangelion of wrestling matches.
And I don't know anything about Evangelion either, so well, that's a whole other podcast we have to do.
So, we're going to transition to the next story, which is tangentially related. And I'm very excited to talk about wrestling from Japan, but I got to introduce the history of it a bit, of how wrestling in Japan is. So wrestling in Japan, the current wrestling landscape is not dissimilar to the US's, but the style and plenty of other things are different. Like, there's one big company that kind of dominates the central cultural influence of wrestling, and then you got the smaller alternatives that don't have as much money but still get sizable followings. A lot of US wrestlers actually prefer going to Japan and working there instead, just because they like the atmosphere a bit more. So wrestling in Japan existed before World War II, but didn't really pick up until Korean-Japanese wrestler Riki Dozan debuted. He's become essentially like a folk hero in both Japan and Korea. Like, if I compare him to an American wrestler, it feels like an insult to compare anyone to like Hulk Hogan, but in terms of like mainstreaming a product, that's the best thing I can refer him to, is like, he would be like the Hulk Hogan. He's the one that pushed it into like the mainstream.
Okay.
I don't care for Hogan's wrestling at all. I do want to make that clear.
No, for sure. I know there was, if I remember correctly, he's said some pretty crappy stuff.
Yeah, he's not a good person.
Yeah, that much I know from bits and pieces about him and things he's apparently said. So, okay, yeah. No, I know enough to know that he's a crappy dude. I don't know all the details, but I know enough that I know he sucks.
Yeah, we'll eventually do an episode on him breaking down how much he sucks.
Okay.
So the promotion this storyline took place in is called Hustle. Now, like I said, Japanese wrestling is a different style, because it's generally driven by in-ring spectacle rather than storyline. There's occasionally story, but it's not like WWE. Hustle was designed to be kind of like the WWE Western style and provide it to a Japanese audience. Was founded in 2004, went defunct in 2009, which is like not a long time, but is like a respectable run compared to some American wrestling startups. I also thought the name Hustle might have been a reference to that wrestling anime, Muscle, but then I found out the Japanese name of that was Kinnikuman Nisei, which sounds nothing like Hasoru. So
I was gonna say, I know it was Kinnikuman something. Okay.
Yeah, so that wasn't a real connection I made at all, but it was like, oh well. So Hustle's overarching story is built like more clear cut as opposed to WWE, where like in WWE everyone has like competing goals and wants. In Hustle, there were 2 groups. There were the good guys who wanted to be a part of Hustle and just like protect the sport, and then there were the bad guys who wanted to destroy wrestling.
Of course, okay.
So very anime-esque, because I feel like there's a lot of shonen anime that like adapt things that way, where it's like there are the good people and then there are the bad people.
Yeah.
So I also need to explain a move that has become a big part of Japanese wrestling. It's called the Poison Mist.
Okay.
I'm going to show you some examples of it being done, both in promo and in matches. Just let me know when you finish watching that one, and I'll send the next one.
Okay. Oh, there's Hulk Hogan. Is there a timestamp for this one I should jump to? No, it started me there. Okay. Wait. Excuse me. Hold up. Why? Wait. That can't... God, I hate that the thing I visualized and decided was too dumb is the thing that it actually was.
And here's it being used in a match.
Oh my god. Okay, that's pretty solid, actually. It doesn't make any sense, but that's pretty good.
So it was designed to be a villainous maneuver, so when the referee isn't looking, one wrestler just spits a cloud of green mist into the eyes of the opponent, blinding them.
Where do you get the cloud from?
So, I'm going to explain in a minute how they do it, because it's equally absurd. So a lot of people do assume this move comes from Japan. It actually originates from a Texas wrestling promotion, World Class Championship Wrestling, and promoter Gary Hart, who wanted to create a top Japanese star to play a villain. He says in his book, like in the 50s and 60s and partway through the 70s, you could just put a Japanese star and just build them out of Japan, and they would be a top bad guy already, because nationalism is dumb. So he had to step beyond just general racism and be like, well, we need to give him something crazy to do. So he created the character of the Great Kabuki, which is partially adapted by from a Filipino wrestler's gimmick, and gave it to a Japanese wrestler, Akihasa Mera. So they were trying to give a good thing to give a pop to the audience, so he came up with the Poison Mist, which is accomplished by loading a small condom with mouthwash and green food coloring and storing the condom in the mouth until it's ready to be sprayed.
Oh, man. I hate it. Is there even room for, like, do people still try to talk with this going on?
Oh, I've seen people talk with it in.
Okay. Ugh.
You have mixed feelings on the mist.
It's funny as shit. It's also just, I don't know why I'm so stuck on this. I can't get over this works. This is a good idea. This move is cool. Okay.
I mean, it's still being used today. I'll send you a compilation of the wrestler Asuka doing it.
Wait, Asuka does it?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. If you remember the previous episode, I said that I know some wrestlers' names just because they're women and I think that they're pretty, and Asuka's one of them. So I did not know that she did that.
Yeah, she first started doing it when they turned her bad for the first time, but now she's good again, and they just kept her doing it.
I think she deserves to spray poison mist whenever she wants, honestly.
Yeah. And the mist has been explained as everything from magic to stomach bile to the wrestler being born with an organ in their throat that produces the mist.
Okay.
There's still some mystique to it, as it's never 100% explained. Different colors actually are supposed to do different things.
Ooh.
Green obscures the sight of the opponent, red burns the eyes, blue knocks you unconscious, and black blinds the victim for a week.
Okay.
So that's actually been built into storylines of people going blind for an extended period of time.
That's incredible. Okay, that's very anime.
Yeah. So, the Mist was adopted by all types of wrestlers and all different promotions, eventually being passed to wrestler Keiji Muto, who most people know as the Great Muta, who's actually part of the angle we're going to discuss.
Okay.
I do want to mention a lot of information I sourced on this is from YouTuber Parts Fun Known in his video, The History of the Green Mist. If anyone wants to know more about the Green Mist and its problematic history, go watch that.
I know what I'm watching when this episode is over.
So, the Great Muta is probably one of the best-known Japanese wrestlers here in America. Was prominently featured in WCW, had a couple matches in TNA, made an appearance on AEW. He never wrestled for WWE, but in most of the older video games, they have a hidden pre-made moveset to him, which is how they would sneak in characters they couldn't legally include. Next person I need to introduce is Taiwanese model Yinling. She only ever wrestled in Hustle, where she adopted the alias of Yinling. I keep messing up saying her name. Yinling, the erotic terrorist. Her gimmick was that she dressed like a dominatrix and whipped her opponents. Also, that feels like a very shonen trope. I can think of a bunch of animes where, like, because she was, like, assistant to the main villain of that group, so...
Yeah, and she's got, like, the whip. Yeah, no, there's... I don't know, anime, I've seen heroic characters and I've seen villainous characters with, like, the thorn whip or something, or just a whip weapon in general. So, yeah, no, that's pretty wrapped up in anime tropes.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yinling's on the bad side, Muta's on the good side. So the two have a match, and at some point, because I think Hustle is hard to talk about because of a lot of its media is lost. It's never been properly translated for here. If anyone at Arrow Video's watching, maybe get on that. So they're having a match together, and she sits on his chest to pin him, but then he quickly flips her over and tries to mist her, but the mist doesn't hit her face. It hits her hoo-ha.
Okay.
Everyone looks confused. Muta wears a mask, but even he looks kind of like, whoopsies.
Okay.
She starts screaming and passes out. Next show, she's talking in the ring, then she starts to throw up, segment ends.
Okay.
Show after that, head bad guys talking, and she comes out to reveal that the mist got her pregnant and she has laid an egg.
Oh my, okay. I knew, I anticipated half of this, but not the egg thing. Okay.
She gleefully shows off the egg.
God. I appreciate your use of the word gleefully.
Let me pull up the picture of what hatches out of the egg so you're ready for this.
Oh boy, okay.
So, next week, what is revealed to hatch out of the egg is, again, only a week, is 6'8", 500-pound monster Bono.
Wait. He's not even like a guy in a costume. He's just a dude.
Yeah.
With the pacifier. How is the more outlandish pregnancy storyline the one with the less confusing, like, culmination? God. All right. Okay. Is this expanded upon at all? Is there more plot with this?
Yes, there is much more plot.
Oh boy.
So,
okay.
So people who might not watch Japanese wrestling would still recognize this guy because he was in a match at WrestleMania 21 against the Big Show in a sumo wrestling match, because he's sumo wrestler Akebono Taro, who genuinely amazing sumo record, competed in a total of 1,067 matches and only lost 232 times.
Jeez, okay.
So, like, statistical average sport-wise, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, Monster Bono goes on, like, a winning streak, but because canonically he's, like, less than a year old, very childlike, and he's only on the bad side because he's under his mother's control.
Okay.
But Monster Bono wants to meet his father and is sick of the abuse from his mother, so he rebels against the bad side and changes his name to Bono-chan. Eventually, Yinling faces Bono in a match, declaring if she wins, Bono has to return to the bad side. I've been just calling it the bad side. It's called the Monster Army.
That's a really cool team name, though.
Yeah. So, Yinling in the end actually lets Bono win.
Okay.
But due to his large size, when he's pinning her, he crushes her to death. This is the last time we see Yinling in Hustle. She gets to give a dramatic death speech and everything.
Okay.
So, not a bad way to go out. Because that was her last match ever.
Jesus. Okay. I mean, if that was your last one ever, that's not terrible. I feel like I have so many questions. So, okay, so he joins the good side. Does he, like, continue to wrestle for a while?
Yeah, he's still wrestling against the bad side now. He's just teaming with the good side now.
Do they ever, like, reference this part of his tragic childhood?
Oh yeah, it goes on from there, because Yinling died, the bad side challenges Bono and his father, the Great Muta, to a match at their big show, which is Hustlemania. This happens in 2008.
Okay.
Bono and Muta win, but the leader of the bad side, Esperanza, attack them both after the match. And in order to save his son, Muta sacrificed himself and drags Esperanza to the underworld.
Good, okay.
So in the canon of Hustle, hell is real, and it's a place you can just go.
Hell is real, and it's a place you can go, and sometimes you just lay an egg.
Yep. So after that, Bono changed his name from Bono-chan to Bono-kun to signify his maturity now that both his parents were gone.
Sure.
So he wrestles a few more months until the big show Hustle Aid, where he makes one more transformation into the Great Bono, which is like part of his father's wrestling name. And after winning that match, he announced he was leaving to go search for his father.
Okay.
Which is a very anime end.
I was just gonna say, that's really okay. Is there more plot after that? Is that where the story ends with him?
I'm almost certain it would have continued, but then Hustle went under in 2009.
That's right. Hustle. Okay. Man, that's... They could have done so much more with that. That's so fun.
And there's so little of Hustle available online. There's so many characters that are like... There are characters that are just supposed to be like 100% the Power Rangers and stuff like that. I need more of it, and I need more of it posted online. I need Shout Factory or Arrow to pick this up and make DVDs with subtitles.
Yeah, I kind of want in on this now. If they ever release these, I really want to see them. This specifically sounds amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay, so It's two separate pregnancy storylines, each with equally nonsensical endings. I can't believe that the one that started out with the poison mist egg-laying pregnancy had a comparatively less confusing arc to it.
I mean, because at least it follows a thing going on.
Yeah, no, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and there's a payoff. You even if it's not the most narratively satisfying, leaving to look for your dad is still a pretty solid way to send a character off. But I just had another kid, and it's not actually a leprechaun. Don't worry about it. He just kind of looks like one. And then we just don't talk about that anymore, ever. God.
Here's her gleefully showing off her egg, because I know you need to see that.
I absolutely, thank you. God, that's so good. And that looks like the kind of egg that he would come out of. I think that makes sense. I feel like the thing I'm most intrigued by here is the poison mist thing. I feel like I need to, one, steal this for a character when I design one next, and two, just go look into this because it sounds so silly.
It's very good.
I'm so into this.
I really like the mist.
I love this.
Do you have any more questions about...
I don't know what cans of worms I will open by asking questions. Surely there are more pregnancy storylines.
Yes.
Yeah, I would think so. It's really funny to me that the only I mentioned briefly that one of the things I know a little bit of wrestling stuff from is Kaiju Big Battle. Which had a lot of elaborate storylines. It had multiple factions of kaiju characters. They were obviously disguised in costumes, and the ring was always full of cardboard buildings when they fought, and they'd hit each other with buildings and stuff. But they had a pregnancy storyline there that had not only a paternity test, but an extended Braveheart parody. One member of one faction was killed, another got his arm cut off, and the pregnancy storyline ended with an egg being laid that hatched into 30 extra wrestlers who just joined the faction that their parents belonged to.
God.
Yeah, it was Team Spacebug. One of their members laid an egg, as you do when you're a space bug, and 30 insectoid warriors known as the Swarm came out of it, and Team Spacebug just was immediately by default the largest faction in all of Kaiju Big Battle. That was also nonsense, but that was nonsense that I actually own on DVD, so I'm much more familiar with it. God.
I do need to cover one more thing about Yinling,
okay.
Because we're never going to come back to her.
That's fair. Well, I love her. I'm glad that I learned about her. So far, she's a fave.
So she did originally debut as Yinling, the erotic terrorist. But then she became good later on and became Nuling-sama, or Mistress Nuling. But then the bad guy shot her with a laser beam and took her off TV for a little bit, and then she came back evil again.
People keep deciding not to be evil and then leaving for a while and coming back to be evil again, and I kind of love it.
It's so fucking good.
Oh my god, that's so funny. I think Yinling is my favorite.
Let me send you a picture of her so you know.
Okay.
In the middle. On the right is Muta.
Oh no, I love her. Okay, yeah, I think Yinling and Asuka are my favorites. Good heavens. Well, I feel like I was presented with a lot of information, but I don't know if I learned anything.
I think learning about these storylines actually makes you forget things.
I feel like it's gonna push stuff out of my brain, yeah. Not important stuff at first. It's gonna be the minutia of TV shows I haven't watched in a while, but it's eventually going to get to like life skills that I've developed that are just, there's no more space for that. So I'm learning like the backstory of Hornswoggle instead. It's gonna get dangerous after a point. I feel like I need to start taking notes. I started taking notes too, which means that I have in the notes app on my phone, one line just says "the hand." I will send you a screenshot if any of these notes are useful. I also had to type the phrase "sexual chocolate," which I've never typed before, so thanks for that.
It's in your autocorrect now.
Yeah, but only as a proper name. I start to type a name that starts with S and it auto-completes that instead for some reason.
You're gonna ask someone to pick up, like, cinnamon chocolate or something, and it's gonna say sexual chocolate, I guarantee it.
Well, I ate that limited edition Godzilla vs. Kong chocolate with, like, the chili chipotle flavoring to it, and that was definitely the least sexual experience I've ever had because it was terrible and I hated it.
I think this is a good part for us to end. Join us next time where we talk about a central figure to American wrestling, Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Thank God. I've been waiting for this. All right. Have a good